Abductees' accounts can sound like fantasies and they're easy to dismiss. But recently that's begun to change, ever since a distinguished Harvard psychiatrist said that he believed his patients' stories.
The whole thing sounded like something that had really happened to people. They talked about it like you would talk about a real event, particularly a disturbing event, with appropriate feeling and doubt and all the things that a person of sound mind does. The only problem was that what they were speaking about is not possible. So I was faced with a dilemma. Either I try to take this material and jam it into some kind of old psychiatric model into which it would not fit, or I had to expand my worldview. It was, in a sense, it was a battle within me between my clinical judgment and the way I was brought up to think that the world was.
Dr. John E. Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize winner for his biography of Lawrence of Arabia entitled A Prince of Our Disorder, put his career and his reputation on the line by researching close encounters. After years of research, John concluded that many reported abductions were not hallucinations, psychosis, or schizophrenia. Many people were experiencing real encounters. Mack traveled the world researching, listening, and analyzing close encounters. He worked with the 60 school children, better said, 60 experiencers from the aerial school encounter in rural Zimbabwe. In my opinion, one of the strongest cases we have, a mass sighting with 60 witnesses. This case is riddled with correlating aspects to other cases of close encounters. A UFO landed, and these children saw the beings exit the craft, broad daylight. I will leave a link in the description of this video to the video on this channel where we discussed this case in the past. Unfortunately, John's life was cut short. He died at the age of 74 while visiting Britain to speak at a conference on Lawrence of Arabia. After having dinner with some friends, he was walking back home, and as he crossed the road, he was hit by a drunk driver. I will not let John Mack's work be forgotten. Neither should you. So why is it that the mass media and so many members of our community scoff at the claims of abductees? I believe it is time for the abductee and experiencer to have a voice and not feel ridiculed in any community, especially our community.
Well, what I'd like to see happen here tonight is that we really deepen some questions. I happen to be very interested in the reality question, or the ontological question as it's formally called in philosophy, and I hope to arouse and deepen your curiosity about all of this. Now, what happened to me with Bud is that somebody asked if I wanted to meet him. This was the fall of 1989, and I'd never heard of him, and they said, well, he's this guy that works with people who think they've been taken by aliens into spacecraft. And I said, he must be crazy if he believes that, and this must be some new form of psychosis. Well, I had a couple of free hours, and I went to see him, and I liked him, and he seemed sincere. He didn't seem crazy at all. And he was telling me about people who were telling stories that they didn't believe themselves, that they were questioning. They sounded like pretty healthy people, which I've seen now worked intensively with about 130 of these people, is that the stories are consistent. They are described with intense feeling, appropriate self-doubt. They are shocked when they hear other people have had the same experiences, because that tends to affirm that it's real. They have nothing to gain by this, and they don't seem to fall into any category whatsoever. And as I've gone more deeply into this, this has held up. Now, the fact that what they are describing isn't possible in our reality is not my fault. What you then have a choice of trying to stretch what you might consider to be possible at that point.
I think it is often forgotten that UFO history and a lot of the data we have available to us today is based on experiences relayed by abductees. Even the pilots in the videos confirmed by the Pentagon are experiencers. And I always felt all we needed is one case to be real. And it looks like now we have three.
Now I believe overall this is a phenomenon of enormous complexity, meaning, and value for understanding of ourselves, who we are in the universe, and we're just beginning to grasp what this is about. So there aren't going to be answers here tonight, just deepening questions. First is the event level aspect. This is the sort of traumatic part. this mixture of subjective and objective elements that have to do with the intrusive, rape-like aspect for some people. The physical evidence is there, it's part of the picture, and it works together with the subjective evidence to create this picture. The trauma is not just what has happened, it's also what I call ontological shock. In other words, to the person having that experience, this is no more possible for them than it is for us. So we struggle together with that question.
So what about the abductees and experiencers that aren't highlighted in UFO lore? Do they matter? Yes.
Why is there so much resistance to accepting, or at least realizing what's going on? And I think at the heart of this, even more fundamental than the terror of the helplessness, the lack of control, we know that it represents that, and people are afraid that they can't protect their children, and that this is a kind of intrusive, overwhelming kind of phenomenon. But I think even deeper than that is this ontological problem, in that this absolutely defies our categories. In other words, if we are if our worldview is one that can master knowledge through experiment, through the methods of basic science, this doesn't fall into a category that allows us to do that. It crosses over. You can't locate it. It is both physical and it is as if in another dimension at the same time.
And now that UFOs are being openly talked about and considered a reality, we need to hear their stories. It may be a family member or a friend who, because of their fear of being treated like a crazy person, never speaks of their experience. It's time we give them a voice. So I ask all of you watching this to give the next post or story written by an abductee or an experiencer the benefit of the doubt. Let them know that they are not alone, and that there are many other experiencers and abductees like them out there, and many of us working to find the truth and an explanation to this phenomenon. If you're an experiencer or abductee that feels like you need to share your story, I'm here. I will not judge or ridicule you. We are all in this together, and maybe if we work together, we can get one step closer to the truth. As always, thank you guys for watching. If you're interested in learning more about the aerial school case that John Mack worked on, check it out here. Please subscribe, share this video, and remember, on this channel, the paranormal is normal.